Forget the drones, Rhode Island attacked by a real threat, ransomware. And I've been saying this for weeks, that people are too concerned about these drones and they should be more concerned about governments and businesses not protecting their data and these cyber criminals stealing their data and siphoning off their communications at a rapid pace here going into 2025. I'm Bryan Hornung, CEO of Xact Cybersecurity and IT. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to talk about all the attacks that happened in the last week or so. Ransomware attacks that are in the news, ransomware attacks that we're aware of that might be happening that aren't in the news, and the fallout that comes from ransomware attacks. That's all the things that we're going to update you today on the video. And first, we're going to talk about what's going on in the state of Rhode Island, where they're dealing with a major ransomware attack on their Rhode Island Bridges system, which essentially is like an HR system or an ERP system that this government uses to manage various things. And I'll kind of show that on the screen here in a second and kind of let you know kind of who has been impacted by this. But I talk about these ransomware attacks on municipalities and governments and states. And even our federal government, some of their agencies have had cyber attacks that I've covered on the channel. And these cyber attacks on these government entities can be pretty far impacting and wide reaching depending on what services are impacted and whether or not you need to use those services. So we've seen things like 911 systems and police and ambulance go down as a result of these attacks. We've seen the ability for people to purchase homes and transfer titles be impacted, where real estate doesn't move for months and months as a result of these attacks. And we've also seen cities come out, like the city of Columbus, and say that this really isn't a big deal, only to find out that these ransomware attacks and these types of cyber attacks impact your residents in a major way, and it is a big deal. So we have the Governor McKee of Rhode Island here, who said that this means that anyone with any of the following programs and benefits managed through the RI Bridges system could be at risk. So it's anyone in your Rhode Island who may have used Medicaid, who may have been part of the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, temporary assistance for needy families, childcare assistance programs, health coverage purchased through Health Source Rhode Island Works, long-term service and supports, and then general public assistance programs. So you can see a lot of programs are managed through this system, and it is now experienced a cyber attack and a ransomware attack in particular, which typically means that these cyber criminals have siphoned off or exfiltrated this data, and they are in control of it, or a copy of it, and they are requesting a ransom payment from the state of Rhode Island. And this impacts people in a lot of ways. As I mentioned, your data potentially could be stolen, and information can be used against you in various ways, and I'm going to explain what you need to look out for here in a second. But also, as a taxpayer, you're going to end up footing the bill for not only this ransomware attack, but what's going to happen after this ransomware attack, which could potentially be lawsuits. It could be other things that come along, but certainly what will absolutely come along is an increase in spending for cybersecurity. So this hopefully doesn't happen again, and the taxpayers will have to pay for that, and the government is going to have to figure out how to fund that. There are no real federal resources at this time that are available to states and local governments to fund cybersecurity. So we'll see if that changes in the future, because a lot of companies and a lot of entities like this are struggling to figure out how to fund these new costs around securing people's data, because cyber criminals have gotten really good over the years and businesses have gotten not so good at protecting that data. So that's what's happening in Rhode Island, and let's cover the next subject here, which is a quick story that I want to touch on regarding Ukraine blaming Russia for a major cyber attack today on December 20th, 2024. And while I'm really not going to go into the details of this particular cyber attack, I just want to pose this question to you, especially most Americans who watch my channel, that do you think that this could potentially happen in the United States? Well, I'm here to tell you that it can. And China, North Korea, Iran, Russia, they are absolutely 100% targeting our critical infrastructure. And we need to pay attention to things like this. And I'm bringing this article on the screen just so maybe you'll pay attention to what is happening in other parts of the world and kind of look into these things and see what other cyber attacks are happening to other countries at this level where they're attacking things like critical infrastructure. And just suppose it happened in your world and what that means to you. And understand that you have to prepare individually for events like this if you plan or hope to get through them. So please understand that a lot of our critical infrastructure is connected through technology, and a lot of our critical infrastructure has old technology that can't be protected or defended well. So it means we are running systems that have major risks in them and embedded in them that we can do nothing about as cyber defenders. And unfortunately, on top of that, like I mentioned in the last article, these entities don't have the money to do what's necessary to protect or take care of these things so hackers can't get to them. So hackers can get to them. And unfortunately, that leaves us susceptible, and it leaves us with this risk that our power grid, our water systems, and the things that we rely on every day, like the internet, could potentially not be there one day as a result of a cyber attack. And then we have another story here, folks, from the city of Noblesville. And my threat intelligence team picked up on this today, but apparently this city has been dealing with some kind of an event since right around Thanksgiving, November 27th, 2024. And more than likely, based on the information that we have, the city of Noblesville came out with this statement that says that the city of Noblesville recently experienced a security incident which affected some of our systems. Protecting the security and privacy of personal information is the utmost importance to the city. And upon learning of the issue, we commenced an investigation and began working with outside cybersecurity professionals who regularly analyze these types of incidents. So what probably happened here is they probably were notified by the cybercriminals that they had access to their data or their systems in some way, shape, or form, whether that was through ransomware or through some other means. This city was tipped off around the 27th that this was a problem for them. Well, the Interlock ransomware group has posted recently on their dark web leak site the city of Noblesville. And what we know is when these things appear on dark web leak sites, it's typically because you're not paying or you're not negotiating what these criminals would consider to be in good faith. So then they start to out you on these dark web leak sites. And Interlock's dark web leak site states that the city of Noblesville is a company that operates in the government industry. It employs 250 to 499 people and has 25 million to 50 million of revenue. The company is headquartered in Noblesville, Indiana. We present to your attention a large SQL database, confidential data of employees, confidential data of the police, and emergency services. And this isn't the first time we've seen a city in the United States have this type of information stolen. As I mentioned in the previous article when I was talking about Rhode Island, things like 911 systems and the police can become victims of these attacks. And police investigations we've seen like with the city of Washington, D.C. in the past, where the cyber criminals started contacting the police and the police informants and the criminals who were being investigated, trying to extort one of them through the information that they had. And that's essentially what these cyber criminals look to do once they get their hands on this information. They're like, who can we reach out to in all these people that are in this data that we have? What kind of information can we use to try to trick them or try to scam them even more? So this can come to you in the form of phishing emails where it looks like, hey, it's coming from this city of Noblesville. If you're an employee of this city, they can send you something that looks like the city sending you something regarding your employment or your benefits, and you think it's legitimate. You click on it, and then you go to a website, and it's asking you for certain credentials that you give up, or you click on something and you think it's legitimate because it's the city sending you something. You end up downloading something, and now you have malware. And all these different scams can happen. You can get phone calls, and they can make things sound very real because they have so much information about you. So people let their guard down because these people who are calling them have all this information. So they start to think, well, maybe it is them because who else would have this information about me? You have to understand that when this information is compromised, you have to raise your guard and make sure that you're vigilant and aware of all these different things that these cyber criminals can do to individuals who have their data stolen. That also goes along with all the other normal identity and data theft things that can happen without your knowledge. That revolves around having, credit cards and loans opened in your name. And we've even seen it where people have received health insurance bills from hospitals and their health insurance company because cyber criminals are able to put together a good enough profile on individuals and resell health insurance and fake IDs to people in America who do not have insurance. And then they use your health insurance with a fake ID and go into emergency rooms and doctor's offices and have procedures and things done while your insurance and you are footing the bill. And a lot of times this can go unnoticed because insurance may pay the whole thing, or sometimes it gets noticed when the insurance company sends you a letter or the doctor sends you a letter saying you owe us this much because you had this done, and either your insurance only covered part of it or didn't cover it at all. And you're looking at this like, what is this? And it's telling you had some kind of emergency work done in some state that you don't even reside in or you never even visited. And that's how these things end up playing out on individuals. So my dark web research team also has let me know that a few other interesting organizations have shown up on the dark web that I'm just going to kind of talk about here. And if you're watching this and you are impacted by any of these, like if you live in Rhode Island, if you live in the city of Noblesville, let us know how it's going there. Drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear from you how this is impacting your life or your ability to get things done in your state or the town that you live in. Because these things can impact people's lives, and if we don't go out there and share this information on how it's being impacted, then people don't really do much about it, right? They think it's not a problem. It doesn't impact anybody. It's no big deal. So we really shouldn't worry about cyber attacks too much. And unfortunately, we're starting to learn very quickly that these cyber criminals are getting very good at stealing this information and then selling it and using it and making money from it in many, many other ways that then cause you financial harm. And also, it takes a lot of time to repair the damage that's done by these guys, whether it's fixing credit reports, explaining to insurance companies or hospitals that you weren't the one who was in the hospital or getting that treatment, that your stuff and your identity was stolen. It takes hours upon hours for you to have these conversations and produce the evidence and prove that you didn't do these things, so they don't charge you for this stuff. Otherwise, you're going to be responsible for it. And this is impacting more and more people every single day as we move along here, and these companies and these organizations fail to protect your information. So this week we've had the Khalil Center show up on KillSec's dark web leak site. We've had the township, the township of Howe Public Schools, or Howe Township Public Schools in New Jersey. So if you're a resident of New Jersey in Howe Township, your school district potentially got hit by a ransomware group named FOG. I don't think that is in the news yet. So if you're in Howe, New Jersey, let us know how it's going there and what you're hearing. We have another FOG ransomware hit on a company called EP Holdings. We also have Circle Electric. And we'll kind of drop all these in the description down below. Village Community School is also another education sector hit by this FOG ransomware group. We also had Krispy Kreme. When did they get hit? I think they were on, they're showing up on the 20th, but they got hit earlier in the week. They were hit by the Play ransomware group, Krispy Kreme Donuts, the big donut organization. Broker Educational Sales and Training, Layman Manufacturing, Hideaway Lake Club, Energy Capital Credit Union, Jared Beschel and Associates. They're a law firm. We have Jet Edge, in manufacturing company, Compliance Solutions. We also have a company called Verosa, hit by KillSec. FunkSec hit flybase.org. So, these are companies that are just posted all over the place on the dark web. There's a whole list of them. I'm scanning through here to see if I can find. We also have like a big one here, Sea Isle Realty, which is in Sea Isle City, New Jersey. We have Cottrell, Fletcher, and Cottrell Lawyers in Alexandria, Virginia. Giordano, Del Colo, Werb, and Gagne, another law firm located in Wilmington, Delaware. Manufacturing firm ValveWorks in Louisiana. These are all the ones that I'm seeing from just the last couple days. Try to scroll through here quickly, and it's Beautiful Pools was hit on the 17th. Fireproof Contractors was hit on the 17th of December by Nitrogen. Beautiful Pools was hit by Nitrogen as well. We have Joshua Grading and Excavating hit by the Play ransomware group. Lanigan and Ryan, just as business services, they were hit by Play. I mean, there's just a ton of ransomware hits. Hits. Eisenhower Carlson Law hit by Kairos ransomware group. All of this stuff just hit this week. I'm trying to dig through here and see if there's any real big names. I mean, a lot of these companies are mid-size and pretty big companies, and Engineer Towered Solutions is another one. They were hit on the 17th. I mean, I'm only on the 17th in our list here. There was probably over 100 companies listed in the last week in my list right here. Rutherford County Schools is another one in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Getting into the previous week. So that's about it. But yeah. So there's just a ton of ransomware activity happening out there here at the end of 2024, guys. It's not slowing down at all, and I'm not surprised by that, because if you're a subscriber or a fan of the channel, if you're not, you should subscribe. You will know that I am very upfront and adamant that businesses just don't do enough to protect your information, and this is just going to continue to happen at a rapid pace until businesses are either forced by regulation and laws to do this stuff, or people decide to start spending their money elsewhere when a company doesn't do the right thing and protect their information. So that's the deal with the ransomware hits that aren't in the news this week. And let's kind of follow some things up here on the rest of the time that we have together and talk to you about some of the fallouts from previous ransomware events, because I keep sitting here talking about your data falling in the hands. So kind of let's look at some previous ransomware events that aren't too old, the ones that happened in the last month or two, and let you know kind of what kind of data was poured out there to cyber criminals to do whatever they want with once they have it. So the first one we have here, get it up on the screen for everybody, 1.4 million records stolen in Texas Tech University Health Science Center ransomware attack. And this was a ransomware attack on the Texas Tech University Health Center and El Paso Health Services Center. And they were hit with ransomware, and it ended up being 1.4 million records stolen. And this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. It's not a small amount of records. I guarantee you that if you're watching this, your information is on the dark web some way, shape, or form. And this could be, this could be your ID, this could be your picture, this could be a lot of things. We saw with Lehigh Valley Health Network, they had patients' pictures leaked on the dark web of cancer patients who were naked because, when you take pictures of patients, they're typically naked when you're scanning their bodies and stuff. And that's all recorded on computers. And then cyber criminals got into those computers and stole that information and put it on the dark web. Same thing's going to happen here with this data. And when hospitals get attacked, these things tend to be in the millions and millions of records. And hospitals should really start doing something about it because, quite frankly, these class action lawsuits are costing these hospitals a lot of money when, in 18 months from now, they're going to have to answer to a court and a jury and whoever about why they didn't do this stuff. And then a jury is going to award damages to a class. And Lehigh Valley Health Network learned real quick it would have been a lot cheaper to take care of things the right way than to deal with what they had to deal with when they had to pay for recovery, pay for the recovery of the event, and then pay for class action lawsuits on the back end. All right, and the next one up on the screen is Ascension Health data. It's 5.6 million records stolen in ransomware attack. So just another illustration of two events where you have almost 7-8 million people's records exposed as a result of these companies not protecting your data properly. And then we have this cyber attack against Christopher Newport University down in Virginia, where they're telling everybody, hey, your name, your email, your ID was exposed in a sophisticated cyber attack. But if we dig past the headline a little bit, it says in an email from CNU's Chief Information Officer forwarded to News 3 indicates that names, ID numbers, emails, staff job titles, and contact information and multi-factor authentication methods were stolen by the cyber criminals. So it was a lot more. And that multi-factor thing at the end there, that's pretty serious. They need to get that cleaned up, or cyber criminals could be getting deeper into people's networks and accounts than you might want them to. And they know too much already about the infrastructure and how things are running at this college. You're just giving them a leg up to do more damage, unfortunately. So the school is requiring users to reset their passwords, and then those who don't do it after 2 p.m. will lose access to their accounts. So they're trying to fix the situation, but as you can see, a lot of these potentially students and definitely employees of this university have had their information stolen as a result. And this is very, very common in the United States, where K through 12 schools, I mentioned already, the Howell Township schools in New Jersey were hit. And now we see colleges and universities and high schools and elementary schools and school districts in the United States are a massive target, and they're hit all the time by these cyber criminals. And as we wrap up here and we head into 2025, I want to end today's video just kind of painting a picture of where things are going in the immediate future with cyber crime, cyber criminals, and what we can look for in the coming months. And right here we have a CVE assigned to Clio vulnerability as Clop ransomware group takes credit for exploitation. And basically what this means is this Clop ransomware group is exploiting this vulnerability in this Clio software, which when we see things like this, and this isn't the first time we've seen a major piece of internet-facing software have a problem like this, and when these problems creep up, these cyber criminals jump all over this and exploit as many companies as they can. So I don't know how many people offhand use Clio, but I can tell you this: when we've seen this with other software programs, when this happens, it gets really ugly really fast, and a lot of companies get hit by a particular ransomware group. And other ransomware groups will try to use this vulnerability, but typically one group kind of rises above everybody else, figures something out, figures how to deploy it and get it, their malware and their ransomware, whatever they do to exploit you on the other side of this. It happens very quickly once a group figures out what works. Maybe they figure out an industry that's very susceptible to this and figure out a way to craft a phishing email or another way to exploit you through some other mechanism, like through a phone call or through a text message. These are all things that a group will test and try out to figure out what works. And if they hit one company, they might try another company in a certain industry that they know uses a particular piece of software or works with a certain vendor. But ultimately, they figure out a message and socially engineer your employees to allow them to do this. Now, in these cases, this pretty much just requires a person to not patch the system. And that happens a lot too, where IT companies, we've seen it all from all over the map, where people just don't have the time, they don't have the resources, they can't update it quick enough, and the cyber criminals strike first. And we've also seen it where companies just decide, you know what, we can't update this. It's going to cost us too much money, or it's going to cause us too much downtime. And we can't afford to have that downtime, so we're willing to take the risk and hope we don't get hit. And that's a really stupid decision to make, in my opinion, because it's really easy to find this stuff on the internet. So businesses should patch this stuff as quickly as possible and make sure, if you can't, you at least get it off the internet so a cyber criminal can't take advantage of it. But we know that that won't happen. I mean, we had a major email provider, Rackspace, decide that they weren't going to patch their Microsoft Exchange servers, and they didn't, and they ended up getting hit with ransomware, and it wiped out that whole division of that company as a result. So you wouldn't think that companies would make decisions like this, but unfortunately they do. And this Clio vulnerability is going to lead to a lot of pain for a lot of companies in 2025. And then to wrap up this week's show, we are going to talk about Lockbit. And going into 2025, we're seeing that this group is teasing that they're coming back in potentially February of 2025. And this is one of the most prolific ransomware groups around. And they went away, as most ransomware groups usually do. They go away after they attack a big company. And now they're threatening to come back. And that's not good. That's not good for anyone. And if this group comes back, it's only going to make the threat landscape worse, because I only see more cyber criminal groups forming, and I only see them, new ones, having more success. I mean, the ones I rattled off earlier when I was talking about, some of the ransomware events we were seeing in our threat intelligence report. A lot of those ransomware groups I mentioned aren't even 2 or 3 months old, and they're already having massive success attacking companies. So heading into 2025, folks, it doesn't really look too good for businesses protecting your data. And that's why, as a cybersecurity expert who helps businesses try to do the right thing and protect this stuff, I can tell you they're not. So you need to start taking things into your own hands and protecting your data. Make sure your credit file is locked. Make sure you subscribe to a service like LifeLock or something like that, where you're monitoring what's happening with your credit, with your health, with other things that are important in your life. Because if somebody tries to take advantage of those things, it's pretty easy in 2024 with the amount of information that is available for them to buy on the dark web that contains all kinds of personal information about you, potentially your license, your passport, your pictures. It's getting like the wild, wild west out there on the dark web when it comes to selling this information. And there's a lot of it, and it's scary. If you don't believe me, you can always go on the dark web yourself. Check out videos where I kind of show you how to go on the dark web a little bit. There's other resources here on YouTube. But you got to start being aware of this stuff. Make sure you're protecting yourself. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. There's plenty of resources in the description. You can check out those links. I'm Brian with Xact IT. Stay safe out there. I'll see you in the next video.